Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all safe and well. Now before we start anything, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of those who have supported me up until this moment, and anyone who this is going to be their first video that you've seen of me on this channel. Welcome, of course. Hopefully you'll enjoy the episode, and if you do, you'll have a look back at some of the older content. But just, yeah, I just want to say a really heartfelt thank you to all of those who have subscribed to the channel. Yeah, I'm kind of overwhelmed by it all. I still can't believe it, type thing. Yeah, in the scheme of YouTube, it's very small. Even in the scheme of this particular corner of the internet where we talk about vinyl and we talk about jazz vinyl in particular. Yeah, it's a really niche of a niche of a niche type thing. So I just wanted to do yeah, a thank you to all of those who have taken the time and trouble to visit the channel, listen to my mad rantings on things. But I hopefully, in terms of what you have watched, hopefully I have been able to present to you albums that you may have not come across before, and that's always a good thing from my point of view, to introduce you to things that you perhaps had not seen before. And I know that many of you have sought out these albums and added them to your own collection. So again, it's heartfelt. Yeah, I know. Yeah, money's tight. So this is not a necessity. These things are luxury kind of things. So yeah, thank you for spending time with me. It is gratefully appreciated. I'm never gonna forget that. Of all the things that could occupy your time and your mind, that you choose to spend some of that with me. So thank you very much for doing that. So that's part of the preamble. I'm going to go through some of the analytics as well, just a brief portion of it, because I certainly enjoy looking at some of the data which YouTube has provided for me by way of who's watching the channel, what they find interesting, and I'll go over it with you, some of it with you today. It's only going to be a brief portion, but the main subject of this particular episode is I've had, to be brutally honest, I've had real troubles. Well, yeah, I've had a real problem in trying to crystallize exactly what it is that I'm doing in this episode. Hopefully you'll find it fun, and it's going to be about jazz records that I own, but it's going to be slightly more nuanced than that, in the sense of, if I was to try and encapsulate it, today I'm going to present you with jazz albums that I really like, but I can't recommend them to you. And that's going to seem like really bizarre, but I think that's the gist of what I'm trying to get at. The reasons for this video and why I say what I say is that many of the albums that I've presented to you, the vast majority, I present them to you not only to pique your interest, and it may be avenues that you would want to go along down in your own particular collections, but also try to vet the albums that I actually show to you. I kind of want them to represent really good value for money. So if you are committed to them and you do purchase them, that I want it to be a worthwhile contribution to your collection. I just don't want to show you everything and anything. I've got to believe in it myself, but there's certain albums that I have in my collection that, for one reason or another, and mainly in the case of the albums I'm going to show you today, it's not that, it's basically to do with, there's one track on that album which I really adore, but I find the rest of the album, yeah, mediocre, or I just don't like it for whatever reason. It just hasn't, basically, it hasn't spoken to me apart from that one track on the album. The rest of it I just find I could just do without it. It's just not relevant to what I like. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So yeah, fair warning. Track albums that I'm going to show you today, I'm not endorsing these albums. I'm not saying that you should buy them. There's one particular track that I think you should listen to from that album, but I wouldn't say, although I have it in my collection, I'm not saying that these represent good value for money. I'm not saying that at all. I just want you to know that up front. But hopefully you're going to enjoy this episode, because it just shows you that, you know, as part of collecting, part of what piques your interest in a particular genre, sometimes you don't get complete albums. It's just the way it is. There may be just one aspect of that album that you truly like, and everything else you can just bypass it. And this is how I feel about these albums that I'm going to show you. So enough about that. So that's the premise. So I wanted to go over some of the analytics with you, because as I said, I find it interesting. And the one I'm going to concentrate on today is by way of viewers, what actual cities that in the last quarter, the last 3 months, which cities have the most viewers, or the most watch time, that sort of thing. So there is a list that YouTube has provided me with, which gives me this information. I just want to briefly go over it with you. So in this list, it's topped by London. So I'm really happy. Yeah, I'm happy about that. Because yeah, my London brothers and sisters, it's really nice that, you know, you've taken into your heart one of your own. I really do appreciate that. Second on the list, from Denmark, is Ludviglust. Thank you to people of Denmark, and particularly of Ludviglust, for watching the channel. Surprising from my point of view, but just thank you very much. The next is Wapahu. I believe it's in Hawaii, of course, one of the US states. Again, just really surprising from my point of view anyway. Next comes Reno, Nevada in the US. Next in line is from Belgium, and it's Schaerbeek, I believe it is. Schaerbeek. So I believe that's Schaerbeek, maybe. I probably mispronounced it, but that's in Belgium. Thank you to the people of Belgium, particularly from that city. Next is Moline in Illinois, in the USA. Thank you very much. Next will come Coral Terrace in Florida, USA. Again, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Followed by San Jose, Costa Rica. Oh, next one is, yeah, I didn't, again, when I saw it on the list, I thought to myself, really? Lausanne in Switzerland. Thank you. I know that's an extremely beautiful part of the world, and yeah, I would like to drive around. I think it's quite hilly around there in that particular part of Europe. I would like to drive, you know, some kind of European sports car along those roads. I think I'd really enjoy it. The last two would be Overland Park, and I think that's in Kansas, USA. Thank you to the people of Overland. And last on the list is Madrid in Spain. So thank you to the people of Spain, particularly those of Madrid, for watching my channel and viewing some of the content. I really do appreciate that, so thank you very much. So I think that'd be enough of the analytics for today. Let's jump into the meat of the episode today, and that's jazz albums that I adore, but I can't recommend to you. In all good faith, I can't recommend it to you. I just don't think it's good value for money for you, particularly if you're starting your jazz collection. I wouldn't advocate buying these to start off with. They just don't represent value for money. But I'm slightly different in the sense of what I like is what I like, and I do have enough, examples of vinyl that I can take a chance on certain pieces of music because I just love them. But I just can't recommend. I just don't. For the moment, I would say, particularly those who are starting out, don't do this. Don't do this unless the track really does resonate with you, and you can't see your life going forward without it. Other than that, don't do it. So the first album today, let's see if I can get some information on it just by reading the back of it. Let's see if there's a... Well, it's on the Teresa label. I can tell you that for a start. Let's see if I can give you a... No, I'm unable to give you a date of when it was released. I'm just taking a quick scout. Ooh, it might be 1988. I've got nothing really apart from, some kind of sleeve note on there. So yeah, it's on the Teresa record label. It's an album entitled New Beginnings, and it's by a gentleman called Joe Bonner. So I'll show you the reverse side as well. There you go. So Joe Bonner, for those who don't know, is a jazz pianist, a really, really good one. He's up there with John Hicks, that kind of level. To my ears at least, I don't think he's better than John Hicks. I don't think he is, but very, very good pianist, jazz pianist. Associated with, certainly in my collection, because of his Teresa record label links, I know him in the context of Pharoah Sanders, and the album Journey to the One, I believe it's called. Seminal jazz album, modern jazz album. Seminal, absolute chef's kiss. It's a fantastic album, and he does the quite a bit of the piano work, if not all of it, on that album. So I think I bought that album first, Journey to the One, then I saw this album Out in the Wild, knew that I'd heard of Joe Bonner and wanted to experience more of his back catalogue. Now, genuinely, there is only one track on this album, and it is New Beginnings. I will leave a link down below so you can hear it for yourself. Now, if you like the modal piano-based jazz, you might just like more of it than I did. Let's just give a proviso. All the albums I'm going to show you, each artist has more talent in their little finger than I will probably achieve in my entire life. So let's get real about it. So even if I'm slightly critical or dismissive, please don't misinterpret that. I have genuine respect for these artists. It's kind of down to my choice, in the sense of, when I do buy one of their products, I can pick and choose what I like from that album. I don't have to like the whole thing. There's no commitment to that. I'm just telling you how I feel, what kind of reactions I have to any particular album. So yeah, don't think that I am disrespecting these artists in any way, shape or form. That's not what's happening. It's just a case of the albums that I'm showing you only resonate with one particular track for me. So yeah, please remember that. So the track New Beginnings, lovely modal, great composition, beautifully played. If you like this kind of solo piano or piano led jazz, it's really nice. It is a contemporary feel to it. So many of you might just sneer at it because it sounds modern pretty much. But that's not to say it isn't any good, and you'll be able to hear it for yourself down below in the links. yeah, there's just something about the entire album that I just can't get along with. But that one particular track certainly does hit the right spots with me. I can't deny it. I do love that one track. I, it's a vista. Let's put it that way. It's a vista. I enjoy it. So there you go. So there you go. Once again, Joe Bonner, jazz pianist, new beginnings on the Teresa label. If you see it out in the wild, don't spend silly money on this. I don't think it's worth it. Really, if you can get this in the bargain bin of any particular second-hand dealer, that's the way to go about it. I wouldn't buy 180 gram kind of repress with the Japanese obi strip on it. I wouldn't be doing anything like that with this particular album, in my opinion. But for that one track, yeah. But if you see it out in the wild, just be mindful, know what you're getting into. In my opinion, it's not a great album, but it has a great track on it. So there you go. That's the first one. Joe Bonner, New Beginnings, Teresa label. The second one today, I do love this guy's output. I really do. I think his body of work is up there with the very best in jazz. He is a big name, but it's quite easy to overlook him and what he's done in terms of he's done so much. But yet, I think it's something to do with, if he had more, like, I think it's something to do with the label choice, because certainly from my recollections, he's done the body of his work on the Chess label, I believe. Chess, maybe Cadet. If he was on Blue Note, you would just know everything about this dude. He would just be up there. He'd be certainly, not to say he isn't rated, because this guy certainly is, but I think he would be put on a higher pedestal than what perhaps he is, or people underestimate, or just can't, it doesn't immediately come to mind his entire body of work, which is absolutely phenomenal. So on the CBS label from 1974, it's an album entitled Solar Winds, and it's by Ramsey Lewis. Well, if you got Lewis in your name, you're going to be, I'm going to like you anyway. So look at, yeah, loving the cover, loving the sunglasses, the little afro. Yeah, this dude is an absolute genius, creative genius, and I don't say that lightly. He really is high echelon. The track on this particular album I would go for is Love for a Day. The rest of the album is just a bit too hit and miss for me. It's either too safe, or I just didn't, the other tracks just don't resonate with me. But when you go through this gentleman's back catalogue, you realise how an absurd talent he is. He really is the real deal. Level of Herbie Hancock easily, yeah, he is. But and he's of the same period. It's just that I think he's done his body of work on less favourable labels, and that will kind of explain why he might be not in the forefront of your mind. But yeah, this is on the CBS label. Like I said, his earlier work, I believe, is on the Chess label, which he has a lot of his seminal tracks from albums on that label. But yeah, Love for a Day, absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to leave a link down below so you can hear it for yourself. And if you like the rest of the album, so be it. I'm not going to talk you out of it. Again, if you see this out in the wild, don't pay too much for it. Really and truly, I just don't think it's worth it. I think your money will be better spent elsewhere if you're going to go, let's say what currently are retail prices for jazz records. I wouldn't necessarily be paying it for this one. Although I love the track, I as an album, no, I can't do it. There's too much mediocreness on there. And again, please don't misunderstand or don't misunderstand what I mean. These dudes have more talent really in their baby toe than they've achieved far more than probably I ever will. Well, it's almost certain that I'm ever going to achieve in my life. So when I say these things, you got to kind of put it in kind of air quotes because it's all relative sort of thing. So compared to these other bodies of work, yes, this is not really up to standard, but a great track nonetheless. So there you go. That's the second one. The third one today, I fell in love with it through hearing it on a CD compilation, and I'd never heard of this gentleman before. I think my grandfather had a few of his albums. So yeah, he has a vast body of work, this particular artist. Again, he can be a bit hit and miss, but when he does get it right, it's absolutely phenomenal. And this album, or the single track from this album that I would recommend, not the album itself, but just the track, really sums up how good this gentleman can be when he's on fire. He really is that good. So on the Kudo label, I thought it was Kudos. Let me just double check if I'm mispronouncing anything. No, it's Kudu Records, division of Creed Taylor. So Creed Taylor is an unbelievable label for jazz and jazz fusion, that type of thing. It has many of the kind of, not S-tier of artists, but it's got the level down, and there are so many gems to be found on that label because they seem to have given their artists, I think, more freedom than they will get on some of the other labels such as Blue Note and Impulse. I think and it's certainly of its time. I think this is like the Creed Taylor, they were really big, like late 60s into maybe late 70s type thing. Let's say there's a decade period where they had absolute, their catalogue was absolutely stunning. You kind of had to do your Blue Note work first, but once you'd got past that bit and you was looking for something else, definitely anything on the Creed Taylor Kudu label certainly, yeah, was of interest. So trying to see when this album was released. Let's just have a quick look. I still haven't even told you who the artist is, but we'll get to that. Can I? Yeah, 1976, this particular one. It's by, well, the album's entitled I Hear A Symphony, and the artist in question is Hank Crawford. Let me show you the cover. Yeah, I like that cover, I really do. And the Creed Taylor Kudo type of, this is a typical kind of cover for that particular record label. Really interesting, something what stands out. So once you kind of seen it, it kind of imprints itself in your mind. Let me show you the reverse. So Hank Crawford, saxophonist, really good. I have quite a bit of his back catalogue, but it's kind of spread out in my collection because there are a lot of hit and misses, so they're not all kind of piled together. They're kind of spread out in terms of, not only do I go by genre on in my shelving, it's kind of like, well, where do you fit in the kind of pecking order? Is it more kind of traditional jazz, or is it more on the jazz fusion side? So depending on what the album is where it's going to be located in terms of shelving for me anyway. That might be just the kind of like something that I do. You might have it all in alphabetical order. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way of doing this. It's just a case of knowing where it is. So yeah, again, I can't recommend this album. I found it, apart from the track that I actually like, which is, let me just, I Move You No Mountain. I'll Move You No Mountain is the track which I'm going to link down to like link below so you can hear it for yourself. Apart from that track, there may be one other track which has maybe 30 seconds of something of interest for me anyway, and how I listen to jazz and what I appreciate. But the rest of it, garbage. Saying it's garbage is going too far, because like I said, these guys are extremely talented, but I just didn't like it. I found it boring. Yeah, I just couldn't. I was skipping tracks really quickly. I try not to do that, because you can always miss a gem by doing that. But with this particular album, yeah, I just found it a bit of a slog. I didn't enjoy listening to it, apart from the track that I've mentioned. Now, as I said, this gentleman, have a look for his back catalogue. He has got some phenomenal work out there. And the track that's on here, which I'm going to highlight to you, is very good. But yeah, it's kind of buyer beware with his back catalogue. It ebbs and flows. And maybe that's just the nature of creativity, that sometimes you hit it and you hit it really hard and it's just a beautiful outcome. And then there's other times where it's just like, yeah, give it a go, didn't work, let's move on type thing. So again, this, if you see this in the wild, yeah, try and get it for a reasonable price. I think I paid almost what would be considered, certainly at the time I bought it, it would have been like a retail price for a 180 gram vinyl, new kind of repress or whatever. I did that because I love the track. You might just go, oh, that's all right, it's kind of all right. But, and if you feel that way about it and you do want the album, certainly have a search around for it. Try not to, again, with all the albums I'm going to show you, try your best not to pay over the odds for them. So yep, here we go. Hank Crawford, I Hear a Symphony, and the track on here that I would recommend is I'll Move You No Mountain. So that's the third one. I kind of told myself that this is going to be a short video, but you know me, I'm always waffling about something or another. So the next album today is a 1979 album. It's on the Pablo Today record label. For those who are new to jazz, you might have not seen this label before. I think in many ways they're similar to Creed Taylor not in terms of overall sound, but they do give their artists some latitude in terms of what they release as albums. So yeah, I've got a few, a few like Pablo Today albums in my collection. They're not all in the same place, they're just spread out in the collection, but every one of them, the reason why I have them is because there's something I liked on it, but it may be only one track on any particular album, so you do have to bear that in mind. I just wanted you to know, so yes, I said 1979, Pablo Today. The album in question is entitled Night Child, and it's by the Oscar Peterson Trio. Ah, look how cute that is. Yeah, I like that. Let me show you the reverse side. So hopefully you can see there as well. There is something, Oscar Peterson, we need say no more, absolute legend, top tier, absolute God amongst men type thing. But on this album, you also have Joe Pass, the guitarist, who I absolutely adore. You have Louis Bellson on drums, who I just absolutely like, and Niels Pedersen now on bass. So yeah, really solid lineup, really solid, and I appreciate it. And he could have played safe and got, it's Oscar Peterson. He can, in terms of doing albums, he could have got pretty much anybody to participate. But I can kind of see where he's going here in terms of the lineup to accompany him, and it's interesting, and that's probably why I like the track on here that I like, which is Night Child, the actual album title. I'm going to leave a link down below so you can hear it for yourself. Night Child is a melodic piece. Um, I Some of you might not find it engaging enough. You might think it's too safe, but and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, but I certainly have a place for it in my collection. It's kind of like showing you my homework, that type of analogy, where I kind of had to do this journey through this sound to appreciate on the other side what I really, really like. The album itself really is, undisputedly, it's a one track album. Everything else on there I'm really not interested in. It was, again, quite a chore to go through the remainder of the album. I didn't find the compositions interesting, the musicianship, although really well played. I just didn't care enough about the tracks apart from the one I picked out. So this is the theme of the whole video. So there you go. Again, in the wild, you should be able to get this one really cheap because nobody's gonna really know what this is. Again, I would look in bargain base, in the kind of bargain bins. Get yourself a clean copy. That's that's imperative for this to work. In terms of, if you're going to pick it up, don't spend too much. Find the cleanest copy you can find, and I would wait. If I just saw it out there and not check the vinyl, that would be a mistake, because I got no doubts that this is probably quite, in terms of finding it out there, you'll probably find quite a few abused copies of it. So try and find the cleanest one you can find for as little money as possible. And I really would put my foot down. So say you went to the average retailer, you've got a couple of brand new 180 gram represses, let's say, and you found this in the bargain bin. I would say to the retailer, whatever you're charging me, I ain't paying it. I'm gonna pay you like, $3-4 less than what you're actually asking for it, because yeah, it's as an album, it's not worth it. For the track itself, yeah, if you like it. So you're going to be able to hear it down below. I'll leave the link so you can decide for yourself. But yeah, that's another one. Yeah, I know this video is probably surprising a few of you, because I don't really do like the negative side of things. Yeah, because there's no reason to, because normally I don't regret buying any of these, but I just can't recommend them to you. And that's, again, I have to reiterate that to you. It's not the album itself. It's one track from that album. I can dismiss the rest of it. I'm not interested. No matter how many times I listen to it, it just doesn't do anything for me. So the next album is a 1977 release on Warner Brothers. And yeah, the artist himself, I got across CDs and vinyl. I've got maybe 5 or 6 of his albums. And in terms of how I listen to music and when I discovered artists, this gentleman's work was introduced to me after I had my initial Miles Davis phase of things. Excuse me. Yeah, once I had that phase, and I was looking to hear something else in jazz to decide whether or not this is a genre that I'm happy to pursue and find out more about. This gentleman's work was presented to me, and I liked a lot of it. Now, as my taste and experience in jazz has matured, where I would put him in the pecking order has definitely, his work, his body of work has lessened in the grand scheme of things. But that's not to say he's not any good. So as I said, 1977 release, Warner Brothers. The album's entitled Front Money, and it's by David Newman. There you go. What do I make of this cover? I don't like it. I just don't like it. I find it really kind of cheesy. That's the reverse side. Yeah, that's the man himself up there. So I respect the artist. I I do respect his body of work. But yeah, in terms of, I would probably S tier, A tier, B tier, maybe B, low B kind of thing. That's not to say that's nothing to be sniffed at in terms of who's out there in jazz. If Miles Davis is S tier, he's like the pinnacle of what you can get, and you're like B tier. Hey, at least you're even in the running. You know what I mean? It's not even a case of you're not even on the radar at all. So I'm not going to disrespect this guy and his body of work too much. I'm just going to say I just don't like this album, and I find a lot of his work, again, a bit meandering in terms of quality. But the track that I would recommend from this album, and I won't recommend the album, just one track, Pharaoh's Gold. I'm going to leave a link to it down below. When you hear this track, you're going to say to yourself, oh my goodness, that's real good. That's what I hope that you're going to think about it. Yeah, I love the track. I ain't going to deny it. If you see it out in the wild, I kind of half anticipate that somebody who was selling this and knew you wanted it would try and hike the price for it. Be wary. Again, I would try to get this for I would, yeah, definitely negotiate with a brick and mortar retailer. But of course, in order to sweeten the deal, you got to buy other things and just say, either you're throwing that in for me, or I want that half price. I ain't paying what the sticker price. I'm not doing it. It's just, as an album in itself, it just doesn't justify it at all. It's, in listening again to it recently, I found it quite annoying, to be honest. I didn't like the album at all. I just liked that one particular track, and the experience of listening to the album was quite a painful one, and I couldn't wait for it to be over. So bearing that in mind, in terms of finding this album in the wild, get yourself a clean copy of it. Don't just get the first one that you see. If you're interested in the track, don't just get the first one that you see. Have a look at the actual vinyl itself. Make sure it's a good print. Make sure that even that the album cover's in good shape. But yeah, as I said, I can't recommend the album in its entirety. It's just a bit and I'm really sorry to, Mr. Newman, his family and that, but that's just my interpretation of what I felt about this album. It's just not there. It just isn't. It's quite empty, apart from the track that I like. So there you go, David Newman, Front Money. The next album may strike many of you. Let me just have a sip of my coffee, by the way. Give me a second. So the next album might be slightly controversial to some of you out there, particularly those who are new to buying jazz vinyl, because it's on, let's see what label it's on. Oh yes, on this, yeah. So originally I think this was on the East 10. No, what am I talking about? For whatever reason, I think I've seen this on a Black Jazz label. But anyway, so this release is a 1981 release. The album is entitled East 101, and the actual artist is called Gary Bias. Now, why is it controversial? The gentleman himself, I do like that kind of like 70s kind of way of superimposing. It's a dark room trick with the negatives, where you superimpose one image on top of another kind of thing. It does amuse me. But anyway, the gentleman himself, saxophonist, David Newman's the one before, is a saxophonist as well, if I didn't mention that. So claim to fame, part of Earth, Wind and Fire. I'm not sure if he was there from the very beginning. I very much doubt it. But when they were at their pinnacle, when a lot of albums that they're real top end albums for Earth, Wind and Fire were being released, Gary Bias was part of it, part of the horn section. And he does a couple of solos. I think After the Love Is Gone, he does the saxophone solo on there. So yeah, it's a person of reputation, and I bought this album without hearing it first. I tend not to do it for the very reason of why it's in this category of albums now. This album's so disappointing. It's apart from the track that I adore, which is track 1 on this album, Asiki, which I believe they explain what that actually means. It means success, apparently, in the Yoruban language, dialect. I think Yorubans, isn't that Nigerian? I think it is. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, another, yeah. Yeah, this album really disappointed me to the point of infuriating me. I thought it was weak sauce. It was kind of too close to that Kenny G. And don't get me wrong, I went through a Kenny G phase of jazz appreciation type thing because I didn't know any better type thing. So I won't be too hard on those who have got this album and kind of rate it. But when you get to a certain level of jazz appreciation, and I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, I just know what I like and what I've discovered over time of what I think is good and bad. I've been exposed to enough of it that yeah, there's a reason why I couldn't hear the whole thing on the internet somewhere, because if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have spent the money on it. And this was quite expensive, and that's what's kind of half infuriated me about it. Let me show you the reverse side. There you go. Lovely gentleman, you know. Cool. I've probably copied many of his kind of like, you know, gone for the beard, although mine's a lot grayer, you know, the hat type thing. Yeah. Me and this guy could have hanged out easily. We're very, you know, we're quite similar by way of fashion, I think. Or, you know, I've seen him and I've just basically copied it. Yeah, I just don't get on with this album at all. Yeah, I just paid over the odds for it, for what it is. And once hearing it, I kind of tried to lie to myself that it was a better album than what it actually is. It's not good. It's not a good album at all. If you like your jazz and you're at a certain level of kind of appreciation, it just doesn't do anything. It's easy, it's safe, compositions, but Asiki, that's a great track, and I'm going to leave a link down to it below. If you see it out in the wild, I don't know what to say apart from you're not going to get it for cheap, because I don't think there's enough copies out there which were produced that, you know, retailers will basically, you know, sell it for the price for the level of product that you're getting. I think you're always going to have to pay more than what it's worth. I can't recommend that to you, not for one track and not for how much the album cost. I just can't recommend it to you. As much as I love the track in question, I just can't do it. I just don't think it's this was the more, probably out of all the albums I'm going to show you today, this was one of the most infuriating ones. It just didn't work for me. Anyway, so there you go. Right, how many we got left? 4 left. Hello, yes, part 2. So we had to do like a jump cut there because of, yeah, slight bit of editing. It's going to be really nasty, but there you go. So the next album I'm going to present to you is a 1972 release on the Impulse label. The album's entitled Spirit Dance, and it's by a gentleman called Michael White. So jazz violinist, of some repute. This guy is like the real deal. This album, first of all, the packaging for this album is absolutely astonishing. It's one of the best packaging that I've got in my collection. I don't go for that ultra high quality vinyl which is out there in the market for some jazz albums. I'm not interested in that side of things. But in terms of the everyday playable vinyl, this is a lovely piece of packaging. I can't deny it. I really do enjoy it. Now, jazz vinyl, sorry, jazz violinist. I think Michael White's one of three that in my collection off the top of my head who I can think of who I really do like. Himself, Michael Baniak, and Jean-Luc Ponty. That's it. I can't think of any. I might have other jazz violinists in my collection. I just can't think of their names off the top of my head. But those three are kind of like the holy trinity of jazz violinists in my collection. This guy is an absolute creative genius. But sometimes there's a price to pay with genius. They tend to go off and impulse just let him do exactly what he wanted to do on this album. Sometimes it's a good thing because it frees up the artist to be the person and produce the sound and composition that they always dreamt of. And for others, it's kind of like a detriment because if they're not reined in, they'll tend to do things that I shouldn't say nobody wants to hear. I certainly don't want to hear it. So if you're a sort of person who is sensitive to saxophones screeching in their jazz tunes, you're going to find a lot of tracks on this album where he's hitting full pelt on the violin, really just hammering it. Yeah, you might not like it. I certainly found it a jarring experience. Again, it was an experience that I couldn't wait to be over. The track that I would recommend from this particular album, I think I've got this right, the 10th Pyramid. It's an absolute shining example of what jazz can do. It's a tune, yeah, it's a particular track that I had to listen to quite a few times, and I will leave links down below so you can hear it for yourself. A word of caution, it's one of those tracks where you probably have to listen to it like 20 times to really get an appreciation of what's going on. I think it's a work of genius, but you kind of have to be in that mindset to accept what's going on, and you kind of have to have I'm not trying to be dismissive to anybody out there. Where you're at in your jazz journey is where you're at. I would just say for the beginner and yeah, certainly for the beginner, this is probably not for you. It's just a bit full on. It's something you have to kind of like drinking whiskey or anything like that. Whiskey neat. It's not something that your body and your taste buds immediately accepts. You have to drink enough of it to kind of like go, oh yeah, I like this, and then you can try ones from that point onwards, and you'll know the subtleties between different brands, different vintages, you know, whether it's blended or single malt, those kind of things. But you have to, on your first initial tasting of it, you go, why would somebody drink something that tastes as vile as this? To use that analogy with this album is, or what Michael White's trying to do here, is a very similar experience in the sense of you kind of have to just go along with it for a while, and you won't necessarily find it an overall pleasant experience. But I can only shrug my shoulders. Listen to the track for yourself, see what you think. Yeah, I just love that particular track. I can't recommend the actual album in its entirety. I just can't. I just can't do it. If you do see this in the wild, again, be cautious in the sense of this probably, I bought this ages ago. It's probably, the value of it is probably gone up quite a bit. I wouldn't be paying those prices for it. I'll just move on. You know, if I saw it out in the wild and it was the price that I think that retailers would try and ask for it now, I would go, no, I'm not paying it. I'm just not paying it. I'd rather buy something else where it's got far more tracks that I think are of quality, or by artists who are, you know, there's just other options. So be mindful of that. Don't just because you see that I have it, go out there and get it. No, I'm not saying that. Or if you are to get it, know exactly what you're buying. Please listen not only to the track that I recommend from this album, but the whole entire album, and make sure that you like it before committing to it. Please don't just buy it on an impulse. You probably will be disappointed. So I think that's a fair warning. So we are down to our last three. Let me have another sip of, this has gone cold now. I've been chatting for so long. All right, three to go. The next one is a 1980 production or release. I've got it on the Everland Jazz label. The album's in, is it got a name? No. Self-titled. Oh no, it isn't. It's got a title. It's A Safe Return. Okay, and it's by a dude. Lord knows how I mumbled up my words there. It's by a gentleman called Ronald Snijders. Yeah, Dutch name, the way it's spelled. There we go. Hopefully you can see that without the glare. Let me show you there. Yeah. So yeah, jazz. Yeah. So this guy is like multi-instrumentalist, predominantly jazz flute, but pretty much it's kind of like you could put most instruments in front of him and he can play it type thing. He's one of those dudes, and bless him, it makes the world a better place. So this is on the more fusion side of jazz. Not fusion, not as in like rock fusion, jazz fusion side of things. Now I had heard the track that I'm going to recommend, which is Lennox, like decades ago, and I had hoped one day to get my hands on this album, and I picked this one up years ago, and again through listening to it again recently, apart from the track Lennox, it may have a 20 seconds, 30 seconds on other tracks which are interesting, but it's not enough in itself for me to recommend it to you. I just, yeah, again, it just, for me anyway, it just didn't resonate as an album. I just felt that it just kind of just didn't work. It's like the execution, sometimes it was the composition itself, but it just didn't work. So I kind of shrugged my shoulders. I had to have the track. Let me just make that clear. I had to have a copy of the track of Lennox. I just had to have it because I do like that track, and I will leave a link down below so you can hear it for yourself. If you see this at a bargain price, which I doubt you will be able to do, get your hands on it. But I'm talking like really reasonable price. It's not going to be in your bargain bin. It just won't be somewhere like that. But yeah, if you can get it, I don't even know how to really frame it in terms of like what my price expectation would be for this album. Certainly if you try and get it now from a major retailer, they're going to charge you for it. It's just not, whatever they're charging, it's probably not worth it. But the likelihoods of you finding this at a reasonable price is really quite low as well. So I don't know how you're going to approach it. Maybe instead of having it on vinyl format, if you get it on CD, it might be an easier pill to swallow. Or if you are inclined to the more digital media where you can stream it, or yeah, it's a downloadable version of it, you might find that more palatable than trying to buy the vinyl version. So again, just because you see that I have it in my hands doesn't mean in this case it's a recommendation. It isn't. I can say that categorically, it just isn't. So yeah, Ronald Schneider, on the Everland Jazz label. In my particular case, it's a 1980 original release, and yeah, Lennox is the tune. So there you go. Right, two more to go. Should I swap these around? Yeah, let's save the best till last. So on the Strata label, let's see if I can work out when this was originally released. I think 1975, I think. Yeah, let's go with 1975. Again, this is, as I was saying with the Michael White, in terms of the packaging and the weight of the vinyl and so forth. If the Michael White is the best, this is running it a close second. It's a gentleman called Kenny Cox, and the album's entitled Clap Clap, The Joyful Noise. So there you go. Again, another cute cover. Yeah, I like that. Let me show you the reverse. So yeah, the vinyl itself and the packaging has a beautiful heft to it. I must admit, it's something else. I'm not sure if, yeah, maybe if you to try and find this one, this is a double album version of it. You might be able to find it as a single vinyl, and it might be at a more competitive price. From the point in which I bought this, which was some time ago, I haven't really seen it out in a while since then, and I have a really strong suspicion that it's going to be expensive for this. If you get this same copy, I think you're going to be paying whatever they're asking. It's going to be too much, in my opinion. So yeah, Kenny Cox, piano, you know, that kind of like, yeah, that's his skill set, piano, jazz piano. In one of my earlier episodes, I've got one of his albums from the his Blue Note era, which was really, I found it an intriguing album. Not top tier, but intriguing of itself, and you know, well worth having in your collection. This one, I've got to say, I can't recommend it. It's just not good enough, really. But the track in question, which I love from this particular album, is Lost My Love. I really do like that track. It's got something quite ethereal going on. Hard to explain without you actually hearing it, so I'll leave a link down below for you to hear it for yourself. But when I heard that particular track, when I purchased it from a brick and mortar retailer, I must have spent like 45 minutes in the shop listening to that track again and again at different speeds, because you got, you know, DJ decks there, so whether it's on 45 or 33 kind of thing. And not that I'm a DJ, I'm not, but it does make a difference at what speed you play it at and your enjoyment. It's a weird track in that particular regard. The rest of the album, it's just if I am being absolutely, if I'm being as generous as I can do, there's another track on here called Island Song. I wouldn't buy it for that, but at least it's something engaging, whereas the rest of the album, I just don't care. I just don't care what's on it. And really and truly, I bought it for one track and one track only, and I don't regret buying it for it. Would I buy it now with the current prices in vinyl? Absolutely not. Absolutely, I can still love the track, but I wouldn't buy it on vinyl. I would opt for a CD version, or just don't bother with it at all. I know this is going to be for what it is, I think it's going to be silly money for it. So I just can't recommend it. But listen to the track for yourself, see what you think. I don't even know where, if it's easy to get hold of this or not. I just don't know. Because I won't recommend it, and I haven't tried to look for it since, and I haven't seen it in the wild since. Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't care. Right, I've saved. Is it the best till last? Maybe. When you listen to the next track for yourself, you'll be able to decide. Have you? Yeah, probably those who are watching, you've probably noticed that the sun has gone down in London since the time of me starting the recording to where we are at this moment. So the last album today is on Groove Merchant. Let's see what year this particular album was released. 1976. The album's entitled The Mean Machine, and the artist in question is Jimmy McGriff. There you go. Every time I see this album cover, I start laughing. I had forgotten that I owned. Don't get me wrong, I knew I owned it, but I hadn't seen it or played it in so long that I kind of just slightly forgot that I owned it, kind of thing. So it was nice to find it again. But this is a really good example of a one-track wonder type thing. Jim McGriff has got a back catalogue. He's like a B-tier artist type thing, and I don't mean to disrespect him. As I said, these guys have got more talent in their, on a callus on their finger than I've got in my whole body type thing. Don't be, I'm not disrespecting them at all, but I'm just saying in terms of my reaction to this album, it's not a good album. It's just, is it boring? I won't even, would I go that far? I'm just trying to think if there was, yeah, if I oh, let me just show you the reverse side as well. There you go. Yeah, on listening to it again recently, I just can't. Yeah, it's just not good. It just isn't. There's 30 seconds here and there on particular tracks which may be of interest to those who are into sampling, that type of thing. But apart from the one track that I'm gonna highlight to you, everything else is just, yeah, I could live my life without hearing them again. The track in question, It Feels So Nice, Do It Again. Now, let me show you that. Yeah, the dude just makes me laugh, man. Every time I see that picture, it just has me in, just puts a smile on my face. In any case, the track in question is an absolute delight. I'm talking about top end French kiss. Well, chef's kiss, not even French kiss is going too far. Or maybe I was right in the first place. It's like, maybe it does deserve it. It's like, it's a track, when I heard it for the first time, I was absolutely blown away by it. I just thought it was absolute genius. It's funny, in this video I've spoken probably more about an album that I don't like than albums that I do like. So yeah, sorry about the length of this video, but there you go. It's just me being me. Yeah, I can't recommend this album to you. I can't. The track itself, yes, I can. The album itself, no, not a chance of recommending it. Out in the wild, since I bought my copy, I may have seen it once elsewhere, and the price had crept up. Like, it was ridiculous. If you can find this in a mid-price kind of bargain bin, you done well. I got like salute you type thing. I think only if you're in North America do you have a chance of achieving that. Anywhere else, you're probably paying good money for it. And do I think it's worth it? It's worth it to me. I probably got it as the price was creeping up. So yeah, my timing was really good, more than anything. Would I buy it now? Probably at what it will cost to get it? for a good copy of it, yeah, I would. I would. Yeah, on this one I would. Others I wouldn't, but this one I would. I love the track that much. So have a listen to it for yourself down below. See what you think. See if you agree with me. But yeah, Jimmy McGriff, 1976 on the Groove Merchant record label. So that's the last album today. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. It has been a bizarre episode. It has been bizarre that the surrounding light, the daylight from the outside has got dark so quickly, but hey, it's still winter in England at the moment, so this is what happens. Thank you for joining me. I really did enjoy this episode. I found it quite cathartic because I've been able to show albums that I couldn't show you in any other context. I can only do it in the context of I like one track from this album, but I can't recommend it. This episode has really been, as I said, cathartic because it's been able for me to show you albums that I do own. Hey, I make mistakes like anybody else. You just got to decide for yourself whether or not you want these albums in your collection, but know what it is that you're buying. Don't be fooled. They're not good albums as albums. They're good for one track. As long as you understand that, if you're willing to pay the extra money to get them, so be it. But buyer beware. That's the only thing I'll say about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a laugh, as it normally is. Thank you for your continued support. For those who are new to the channel, welcome. I will see you soon for another episode, probably more on the usual format of how I do things. But until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you soon for another episode. So until then, bye bye.